British Prime Minister Boris Johnson is expecting a large rebellion among his Conservative lawmakers over new restrictions to fight the spread of Omicron. Now, lawmakers will vote today on new COVID rules for England, including orders to work from home and to wear masks. But the most controversial measure is the introduction of vaccination certification or COVID passports to enter some venues like nightclubs. Some lawmakers say that these are draconian measures that will create a two-tier society. Around 70 MPs from the Prime Minister's own party are expected to vote against the new measures. Now, across Britain, people are lining up for booster shots. And that's after the government warned that 2 jabs is not enough to stop someone from getting sick with Omicron. It's expected to overtake Delta to become the dominant variant in London by tomorrow. The government estimates that the number of daily COVID infections is going to grow to around 200,000.
It's vital we remember that hospitalisations and deaths lag infections by around 2 weeks. So we can expect those numbers to dramatically increase in the days and weeks that lie ahead.
At the same time, fears are rising over how long the English Premier League can continue with capacity crowds. Today's Manchester United match at Brentford has been postponed after several United players and staff tested positive for COVID-19. The Premier League has reported 42 new infections in the past week, and that is a record since testing data began in May last year. Ollie Barrett joins us now from London for more on this. Ollie, given the expected rebellion, how likely is it that Parliament's going to pass these new COVID rules?
Still very likely indeed, and the reason for that is that the opposition Labour Party say that they will back the measures, and so Boris Johnson is going to win these votes. It very much looks like that will be the case, but that's not necessarily a good look for a Prime Minister in those circumstances where you have to get your own policies through the House of Commons based not on the back of the full support of your own lawmakers, your own MPs, but actually with the support of the opposition. So it does demonstrate a Prime Minister who is currently not in the strongest position when it comes to the leadership of his own party. Very embarrassing for him to have to rely on Labour support. Boris Johnson has just finished hosting a cabinet meeting with his ministers in which he warned them of what he calls a coming huge spike in Omicron. We also know that the Chief Medical Officer, Chris Whitty, addressed cabinet ministers too, and he talked of there being a significant increase in hospitalisations on the way as well, and saying it's too early at this point to make any judgment about whether the Omicron variant is indeed less severe than some of the variants we've seen coming previously. So some pretty stark messages going out from Boris Johnson and Chris Whitty, the Chief Medical Officer, to Cabinet ahead of those votes London time this evening.
Ollie, turning to sports now, it looks like there's been some cancellation on the cards for the EPL, some chaos there and some concern about what's going to happen next. But what measures are they going to take to protect their fans?
Well, clubs are being told to put in more measures at the training grounds and at the stadia as well. And some of that relates to the teams and the staff around the football clubs, and some of that relates to the fans themselves. The fans will, from Wednesday, have to show a COVID pass to gain access to a Premier League match. And that is very controversial. But the government wants people to understand that it's not a vaccine passport. That's not how they want it to be described, because they point out that you can show that you've had a negative test result in the previous 48 hours. It's not just about vaccination, the COVID pass, which is what the government would like you and me to call it. In terms of the clubs themselves and the players, more social distancing is going to be observed, more mask wearing at training grounds and at stadia as well, more lateral flow and PCR testing of players and staff, and there is an encouragement as well for more players to get themselves, if not double vaccinated, then boosted if they are eligible for a booster jab. But I think there is the real possibility now of major disruption to the crucial Christmas fixture list in the EPL, even with those measures in place.
Ollie, thank you for that update. Ollie Barrett in London.